Any belief that we care about, any belief that's a significant belief about the reality that we live in, is not certain. Or there aren't any of them that are certain. So, hopefully, in all of that, in that brief little outline of rationality, we see that the criteria that seem to be threatening at the outset are not really threatening. If my belief in God is not certain, if there's room for doubt, does that mean it's not rational? Well, no. I'm not certain that the world wasn't created 5 minutes ago with all of the memories intact. But I know that it wasn't. But I can make myself feel insecure in that belief. But the insecurity is no mark or sign or indicator that's lacking rationality. If I believe in the existence of God, but I can't quite articulate why I believe in the existence of God, what all the arguments would be that are bring forth, what all the evidence is, does it mean that my belief is not rational? No, not any more than the 10-year-old boy can't tell you how he's riding the bicycle. Or any more than the surgeon can't tell you that that heart's a good heart. I mean, imagine the skeptic going to the surgeon. The surgeon listens through the stethoscope and says, that's a good heart. And the skeptic says, how do you know that? Prove it. I'm not sure you're right. You need to prove it to me. I don't believe that you know until you prove it to me. Well, how do you prove what you only know at a sort of tacit, intuitive level? Of course you can't. That's not a mark against a belief being rational. And I can't remember what the other one was. What was the other criteria? Oh yeah, to convince other people. Ultimately, rationality, as I said, is self-appraising. I'm the one that stands or falls on whether or not I have indeed made contact with reality in my construction of my picture of the world. I'm the one that needs to decide whether it is adequate for me, whether I have in fact discovered truth. And I'm not answerable to other people and their standards and their methods and their criteria, whatever they might trot out. That's not the way rationality works. Are we doing on time? Okay. So let's go on to the third section then. Seeking an adequate explanation for the fact and nature of the universe, the theist concludes that a rational, personal, transcendent, self-existent being created this universe. It's the theist's own reason that accredits this belief as rational. His epistemological confidence in this belief leads him to organize everything else that he knows and thinks around this belief. However, reason is not infallible. Reason is competent, but reason is not infallible. It's part of the magic of rationality that it's self-correcting. It's able to identify when it has gone wrong, when it has gone afoul of reality, and is able to make the adjustments and change your worldview, change your paradigm, change your perspective, change your outlook on the facts, and correct itself. So reason is not infallible, so the theist could be wrong. That's true. I personally remain a confident theist. I do not believe I am mistaken. I see no reason to abandon my belief in the existence of God, because no alternative explanation of the fact and nature of the universe is intellectually satisfying to me. This is a commitment to what I think is an objective belief. That is, I believe everyone should hold this belief in order to satisfy reason. But, like I say, reason is not infallible, so perhaps I'm wrong. But yet, once again, it's the nature of rationality that we simply, when we call something true, what we mean is I'm committed to it being an objective description of reality for everybody. An atheist could make exactly the same claims that I have just made. I understand that. But I would argue one of us is right and one of us is wrong. So every individual is in the position that they must choose which belief to embrace. And as we make that choice, we need to take care that it is truly reason and not some non-rational factor in my human experience that serves as the ground of my choice. So, I think that's adequate for my initial view.
to see. Is this on now? You're working for it.
All right, here we go.
Here we go.
Okay, this is Dr. Michael Coolen, a professor of music at Oregon State University. He studied 3 years.
I'll tell him.
You can tell him?
Yep.
All right.
It's really gratifying to see that there's so many older people still in school. They have to come to these particular lectures as part of their class assignment. Good evening. I want to thank my friend, Professor Gary Ferngton, for inviting me to participate this evening. Is belief in God rational? This is an important question with a lot at stake. It's about meaning and purpose and why bad things happen to good people, and what happens after I die and people I love die. I know how much deep thought and prayer and heart people give to this question. I know what's at stake. I have had a lifetime of personal experience with what's at stake. I was raised in a devout Catholic family, went to Immaculate Conception School in Seattle and went to Catholic boys' private high school for college. I attended a seminary for almost 3 years to be a Catholic priest, and I graduated from a Jesuit university. This is a question I've pondered deeply for half a century. The stakes and I have met many, many times. Credo ut intelligo ut credam. I believe that I may seek knowledge, and I seek knowledge that I may believe. These Latin phrases do not come from the Middle Ages. They are the titles of chapters 2 and 3 of an encyclical written in 1998 by the late Pope John Paul II. The title of the encyclical is Fides et Ratio, Faith and Reason. Last month, Pope Benedict stuck his foot in it again when he presented a paper that caused a flap with Muslims around the world. What was the paper about? Faith and reason. For 2,000 years, faith, belief, and reason have been the fundamental issues. Who's got a cell phone on? I saw this guy who just threw the... Did you see that video? The professor who grabbed the damn thing and just threw it on the ground. About yours, okay? For 2,000 years, belief, faith, and reason have been fundamental issues in Christian thought. Within the context of Christianity, tonight's question, is belief in God rational, is the same as asking, is faith rational? The general consensus among Christian thinkers from Augustine through C.S. Lewis to the present has been that the belief in God is rational, but that faith always trumps reason. Fides precedit intellectum. Faith takes precedence over the intellect. That's Augustine, 4th century. So the question's already been solved. Faith transcends rationality. It doesn't even need rationality. Why do we keep asking the same question? Why are we talking about it tonight? Here are a couple of thoughts. First, because the question is constantly having to be revisited and revised to deal with continuous advances in science, such as evolution, birth control, cloning, and whether life on other planets comes under the purview of Christianity. The Vatican has decided, yes, it does. Secondly, definitional prestidigitation. I made that up. In substituting the word belief for faith, some hope the audience might not realize that in the context of Christianity, faith and belief mean exactly the same thing. A great number of contemporary Christian thinkers hope that framing this question using a kind of etymological sleight of hand, I got that one too, can serve as a jumping off point for achieving the Holy Grail, so to speak, on reason and faith. They want to prove rationally that God exists. Not that you believe he exists, but that he does exist. Is belief in God rational? In my presentation tonight, I will demonstrate that the answer is yes, and is also absurd. Along the way, we'll examine how faith has trumped reason always, and sometimes with devastating results. Now, everybody in this room has his or her own definition of faith, rational belief, and God, so I'm going to use dictionary definitions. God, the being perfect in power, wisdom, and goodness, who is worshipped as the creator and ruler of the universe. Rational, having reason or understanding. Believe, the number one definition to have a firm religious faith. So tonight's question can be rephrased as, is having a firm religious faith rational? Or, is faith rational? Faith to suspend reason. So the question could be stated as, is the suspension of reason rational? Or even, is irrationality rational? It doesn't sound rational, does it? It's like putting the word British in front of the word cuisine. It just seems wrong. But of course it's rational because the establishment of rationality does not rely on proof or truth or evidence, or even logic. It depends on consensus. Let me give you an example. A few years ago, several rational, well-informed people came to the consensus that it was time to invade Iraq. Among their conclusions was that the Iraqi people would welcome America as their savior, even though Sunnis and Shias had been killing each other and exchanging severed heads for more than 1,000 years before George W. was even born. The current administration rationally concluded that America would win the hearts of the Iraqis. By the way, I was referring to George Washington. In sum, you can be rational and wrong, rational and absurd, and even rational and evil. All you need to do is get enough people together and come to a consensus that irrationality is rational, and Shazam, it